I want to start today by asking you to do something a little weird.
Okay.
If you're driving, please keep your eyes on the road. But for everyone else, I want you to just stop looking at whatever's in front of you.
Mm.
Ignore your phone, forget the laundry, just mentally.
Pull back.
Pull back,
How far?
way back. Zoom out past your roof, past the clouds, until your whole city is just a smudge of color. Keep going until the entire world is just this marble floating in a vast, unending darkness.
It's a powerful image. And it's not just a thought experiment, is it? For a handful of people, that view was their reality.
Exactly, and that's what we're getting into today, that massive shift in perspective. We're talking about the Planetarian Concept and this idea of Spaceship Earth.
Right.
We're doing a deep dive into what it means to see our home, not as, a bunch of competing countries, but as a single fragile vessel.
And I think it's important to say right up front, this isn't really a space episode in the technical sense.
No, definitely not.
We aren't going to, reading rocket specs.
Fun, but no. This is more about the software than the hardware. We're looking at a stack of sources that all argue we need a kind of operating system update for how we see the world.
And it's a really eclectic stack of sources we have.
It is.
We're going to be looking at historical accounts of space travel, especially the story behind the famous Earthrise photo.
Okay.
We have psychological concepts like the overview effect that cognitive shift astronauts talk about. But then we're grounding it in some pretty heavy philosophy and ethics.
Right, like the One Planet, One Habitation document, and even analysis of the Pope's environmental manifesto.
Yeah, it's a wild combination. You don't usually see NASA flight logs next to papal encyclicals.
They really don't.
But the mission here is to show how they're all kind of describing the same thing. It's about understanding the shift in consciousness that these sources say is, well, essential.
Right. Unpacking how changing your view from I live in this town to I live on this spaceship
Right.
changes, well, everything. So let's do it. Where does this story really kick off?
It kicks off with the camera. On Christmas Eve, 1968, Apollo 8.
The first crewed mission to orbit the moon. And from what I read in the source material, looking back at Earth wasn't even really part of the plan.
Not at all. They were there to map the moon. These were serious guys. Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, Bill Anders. They were on a reconnaissance mission.
Looking for a safe place for Apollo 11 to land.
Exactly. They were focused on the gray, dead landscape in front of them. They weren't supposed to be looking over their shoulder.
But then the script flips.
It does. As they come around from the dark side of the moon, suddenly there it is, Earth, rising over the lunar horizon.
Wow.
And you have to imagine the contrast. The dead, gray desolation of the moon right there in the foreground, and then this brilliant, vibrant, living marble just hanging in the blackness.
And there was a scramble, wasn't there? They were actually shouting for film.
They were. You can read the transcripts. Anders is yelling, "Hand me that roll of color, quick!" Because all they had loaded was black and white for the mapping.
They knew instantly.
They knew the science wasn't the story anymore. The view was the story.
And that photo, Earthrise, it became one of the most famous images in history. But the sources argue that in 1968, it was more than a photo. It was a psychological bomb.
It really was. It's been called the most influential environmental photograph ever taken.
That's a huge claim.
But think about it. For all of human history, we looked up. We wondered what was out there. And in that one moment, we were looking back at ourselves. And it showed us something we knew intellectually but had never felt.
Our isolation, our fragility.
Exactly. And that feeling, it actually has a name.
The overview effect.
Yes. And we have a great breakdown of it from an astronaut's account. It's described as a cognitive shift. Down here, the world feels huge, borders seem real, the atmosphere seems infinite.
The solution to pollution is dilution?
That was the mindset. But from orbit, that whole illusion just shatters. The atmosphere looks like a paper-thin skin. It's terrifyingly fragile.
Just this tiny, glowing sliver of life pressed up against an infinite void.
It's not an infinite sky. It's a shield. And a very thin one.
There's this quote in the source that really got to me. The astronaut talks about the big lie.
Yes.
He says the big lie is that we are all separate. That from space, you see how we build our entire lives around these divisions, countries, economies, whatever. But from up there, they just vanish.
They're not there. It's just land and water and clouds.
So the core of the overview effect is this realization that our physical reality is unity, But our social reality is division.
And that we're living in a delusion. We're fighting over lines on a map that don't physically exist.
Which leads directly into the central metaphor for this whole deep dive.
Right. If the Earth is this single unified object, what is it?
It's a spaceship. Spaceship Earth.
It's a term that's been around for a while.
Yeah, I've heard it before. It sounds a little Epcot, But the way the sources define it, it's actually very strict.
It's pure physics. Earth is a vessel traveling through space, and crucially, it's a closed system.
Okay, let's pause on that. A closed system. What does that mean in practical terms?
It's pretty straightforward. An open system, like a car, exchanges matter and energy with its surroundings. You put gas in, exhaust comes out.
Right.
But Earth is basically a closed system when it comes to matter. We get energy from the sun and we radiate heat back out, but the stuff, the actual atoms...
What we have is what we have.
Exactly. With the exception of a few meteorites, nothing new is coming in. And nothing is leaving. There's no resupply ship. There's no garbage truck.
That one distinction changes everything.
How so?
Well, in an open system, you can be messy. You can make a mess and then just get rid of it.
Yeah.
But on a spaceship, if you contaminate the air supply...
You're breathing your own contamination. If you poison the water, you're drinking poison.
Yeah.
It moves the conversation from, say, saving the whales to maintaining the life support system.
It's not about charity. It's about survival.
Precisely. And that brings us to the most critical part of the metaphor. If we're on a ship, what's our role?
Well, on a ship, you have passengers and you have crew.
And what do passengers do?
They just sit back. They expect to be served, and they complain if it's not comfortable.
Right. They're passive. But the crew maintains the ship, they manage resources, they cooperate, they understand how the vessel works because their lives depend on it.
And the kicker, according to these sources, is that on Spaceship Earth, there are no passengers.
None. We are all crew.
I don't remember signing up for that job.
You signed up the moment you took your first breath. The problem is, most of us are acting like passengers.
We're raiding the minibar and assuming someone else is flying the ship and cleaning up the mess.
That's a perfect way to put it. And it creates this moral problem. If we're all crew, how are we supposed to treat each other?
So this is where the physics pivots to ethics.
This is where we bring in things like the One Planet, One Habitation document and the work from the Mary Robinson Foundation.
The phrase that jumped out at me from those was human solidarity.
Yes. The argument is that technical fixes for climate change, solar panels, carbon capture, you name it, they're great. But they're not enough.
Why not?
Because you can have the best technology in the world, but if you don't have the global will to use it fairly, it just won't work. You can't fix the ship if the crew is at war with itself.
And that connects directly to the analysis of the Pope's manifesto, Laudato Si.
It does. And whatever your beliefs, the analysis is fascinating. The Pope calls the Earth our common home. And he introduces this concept of integral ecology.
Integral ecology. What's that?
It means you can't separate the environmental crisis from the social crisis. He says the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor are the same cry.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. Think about the minerals in your phone. To get them, you might destroy an ecosystem in a developing nation. That's the environmental cost.
Okay.
But the process also often relies on exploited labor and poisons local water supplies. That's the social cost. You can't solve one without the other. You can't say, I'm saving the planet, if your solution tramples on half the crew.
So it's a critique of consumption, too, this throwaway culture.
A huge critique. It's madness on a spaceship. Imagine a crew member opening a ration pack, taking one bite, and throwing the rest out because they wanted a fresh one. We treat finite resources as if they're infinite.
It's just amazing how these different perspectives all converge.
They really do.
You have the astronaut in the window saying, hey, it's all one system. And then you have the theologian saying, hey, we are one family.
It's the same conclusion. Science and ethics arriving at the exact same place. We are physically linked and we are morally linked.
So if we accept all this, what does it mean for the future? Where are we supposed to be going?
That's where we get to the idea of a planetary civilization.
Okay, that sounds very Star Trek.
It does, a little.
Yeah.
But it's a sociological concept. The sources ask a simple question. If we're one ship, why do we act like warring tribes? The argument is we're in a transition.
A transition to what?
From our tribal and national identities to a planetary one.
Now, I can hear people getting nervous about that. It sounds like one world government or something.
And the sources are careful about that. It's not about erasing culture. It's about adding a layer. Think of it like nesting dolls.
Okay.
You have your family, your city, your country. This is just adding one more doll on the outside. You don't stop being from Chicago just because you're also an Earthling.
So it's adding a layer of responsibility.
Exactly. It's realizing that certain threats, climate change, pandemics, they are civilization-level threats.
They don't care about our borders.
A virus does not stop for a passport check. These problems demand a planetary response.
Which requires cooperation instead of competition.
That is the fundamental shift.
Yeah.
Historically, civilization has been about competition for resources, but on a spaceship, that's suicide. If two crew members fight over the controls, they both crash.
So it's a software update for how we run the world.
That's a great way to put it. We're running nation-state 1.0 software on Spaceship Earth 2.0 hardware, and the system is crashing. We need an upgrade.
So, to put it all together, we started with the visual shock of Earthrise. We adopted the operating manual of Spaceship Earth. We accepted the ethical burden of one habitation. And now we're looking toward a planetary civilization.
It's a journey from perception to understanding to action. It's about growing up as a species.
But let's bring this back down for the person listening right now. They probably aren't going to orbit. So why does this matter to them on a Tuesday morning?
Because you don't have to go to space to have this perspective. Being a crew is a mindset, not a job title.
How do you act like crew?
Well, it changes how you consume. You start thinking about the whole life cycle of a product. It changes how you vote. Are you supporting policies that protect the life support system?
And it has to change how you see other people.
Deeply. If you really internalize this, the person you disagree with isn't just the other. They're a fellow crew member. You are stuck on the same vessel. You have to find a way to work together, or nobody makes it.
Which brings us to our final thought to leave you with.
So here's the question I want you to think about, pulled from all these sources. If we are truly on a spaceship with no escape hatch, and the person standing next to you, whether you like them or not, is a fellow crew member essential to your survival, how does that change the way you treat them tomorrow morning?
A big question for a small planet. Keep looking at the big picture. We'll see you in the next deep dive.